Mike. Hello and welcome to the weekly MG/EVs podcast streaming live on Monday, the 15th of February 2021. We're here to talk about the MG ZS EV and MG5 electric cars, hoping to inform and entertain you. If you're watching live, thank you for joining us, and please click the like button and say hello in the chat room. If you're watching later, thank you for choosing to open this video, and please subscribe to get a notification before we go live next time. 2/3 of our viewers are not subscribed. Please click that subscribe button and allow all notifications. The discussion topics we're going to try and cover this week are tinted windows. Mike Proctor is joining us this week, so we're going to hopefully get his thoughts on what he's had done to his vehicle. We're going to try and look at the battery maximum voltage on the ZS EV after the January 21 BMS update, and also a general BMS update on the ZS. And then also, if we've got time, what sources are there for replacement wiper blades and what are the sizes? So I'm Sean Cullen. Joining me in this episode are MG EV owners, Mike Proctor from Croydon.
Hi, form name Mike.
We've got Stuart and Sarah Whitman from Southampton.
Evening. Username is Stuart46.
We've got a newbie, his first time online, Mark Calvert from Suffolk.
Hello, username Mark. Hey everyone.
We got Michael Fisher from South Wales. Thanks for that, Mike. And also from North Yorkshire, Innovations Development Manager at Chorley Group, Miles Roberts.
Hi everyone. My username on the forum is miles per kilowatt hour.
Brilliant. So just before we start, we're inviting forum members to edit their profiles and select which MG they are driving, so that forum readers know the context of any questions and experience you are posting. And if you haven't already, please leave feedback for your MG dealer. Please find them on the MG dealer map, go to their discussion thread and post a reply. So looking at the topics, and I'm going to do what I did last week if I can. I'm sorry to drop Mark in it as it's your first time here, but because it's your first time here, we did with Sarah last week, just sort of get her views on your first thoughts on EV ownership. We were having a quick chat before we went live. Do you want to just give us a couple of minutes of your thoughts and where you've come from and how you're finding the MG5 I think you've got?
So thank you very much. Basically, what's happened over the last few months is I've not had an EV before. I've had two thirsty diesel cars, and with the current restrictions and working from home, I suddenly realised by not covering that mileage how much money I was actually spending on diesel, on fuel, and I was doing over 600 miles a week. So over the last 6 months, I've saved quite a lot of money in fuel. But at the same time, obviously, I've been looking at the videos on YouTube, looking at electric vehicles, because it's not my first time looking at electric vehicles. I looked a couple of years ago when they started becoming more popular, but the vehicles that were available at price point at the time just weren't capable enough of covering the range. So to cut it short, it basically came to a point where it was like a perfect storm. The time was right, and I wanted to move from those two cars to a car that could handle the range for my commute to work. So I put my order in and I went for it. So, but I didn't get to test drive it. I could only watch videos on YouTube and looking at other people who had managed to drive it. So watched the fully charged videos and that swung it for me. And that's how I decided to go for it. But I've had the car for 2 weeks now, so I'm still in the honeymoon period with it. But it's coming to terms with your attitude towards EV ownership and how to manage that vehicle to get what you need from it. And like I said in the discussion earlier, I think that I've identified that it's a really good car. I just need to become more proficient with using it. So yeah, I'm just getting lots of accessories for it at the minute.
You'll find it's not expensive.
Well, it's not. I mean, when you're doing 600 miles a week, and it wouldn't be uncommon for me to be putting 70-80 pounds of fuel in a tank every week. And I've worked out that using this car, I'm probably going to be spending a tenth of that, so probably £7 to £10 a week. So when things do return back to normal and we start covering the distances again, I think that's when I'm going to notice the savings.
Makes perfect sense, doesn't it? As you say, it's just I'm a relatively new EV driver as well, and as you say, it's getting used to just driving it as an EV as opposed to a car where, if you do put 60-70 pound in, then you're going to go 400, 500, 600 miles. So that's something just to consider. But well, welcome to the club and welcome to the first podcast. Thanks for that, Mark.
Thank you.
So just looking at the topic then, the first one we've got is tinted windows. We were going to look at this last week, but we didn't because, Mike, you weren't here, and we know you've had the experience of getting your windows tinted. So if you can just maybe give us some background to why you wanted doing, how you managed to, cost may be involved, and what it's like, how they look. I think I've seen some photos already, but yeah,
there are probably some on somewhere. I don't know whether they're on this one or whether they're on Facebook or on Speak EV. There's a few around. Oh, right, okay. No, that's not me, is it? No, that's Mark on the website. Right, yes. So I was used to having privacy glass in my previous cars. It's a fairly standard feature across virtually every car out there nowadays. And quite often I want to sit in the back of my car and just be hidden from view, if you like. And so I looked into it and decided I just wanted to have the windows tinted. But another thing that I really noticed was there's no UV protection to speak of in the back of the car or inside the car, apart from the sunroof, which has got UV protection. So window tinting tends to give you that sort of UV protection. And I noticed when we had so first of all, I had the pillar from behind the B pillar to the rear windows and the tiny little windows I had done for 20% transmission. So not limo, but slightly darker than factory. Factory is normally about sort of 70-ish, I think, 70 to 75. But because I knew I was going to be having a rear dash cam fitted, I kept it at about 70%. So about 30% transmission, so that my camera could still see out the back, especially when it was dark. I knew it would work because I'd had previous cars with rear cameras, so I was happy that would be fine. But then when we had the really, really hot weather back in the summer, we had a long trip planned because we're moving to Kettering area this week. And it was the hottest day of the year, 34 degrees, 35 degrees out there. And I realised my arms were burning through the front windows. So when I got back home, I went back to my local tinting guy, and they put on a very light 30% transmission. And so to try and keep it within the legal bounds, I think probably plain glass still has a 2 or 3% transmission. So I suppose technically it's illegal, and that you should really go for something like 25. You're allowed 70% at the, so maybe 20. So maybe a 75% block. Sorry, getting myself mixed up here. Yeah, maybe a 25% transmission would have been better, but I went with 30. It's minuscule, the difference. Yeah. But it made a big difference. We really noticed it, and so the car stays a lot cooler in the really hot weather. And as a byproduct of it, I don't seem to suffer condensation that much. It would be nice to have it on the front windscreen, just have a UV film, but the window tinters don't tend to like doing that because it could let water go down the front and into the electrics, which could
Yeah.
cause you problems in a few years' time. So most don't like to do it. Some will, but most of them won't let you do it. But it would be good to have the front done, because there's no UV protection there.
I've seen somebody, was it on the forum, someone commented that they got the top strip of the front windscreen at least done just to block out the sun if it was at certain heights or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know, like we had our old Subaru, we got that tinted because we've got a dog and you didn't want to leave her, even when we're driving along in the sunshine, you didn't want the dog sort of facing that. And I think we paid to get the back windows and the rear back window and then the back window itself. I think it was about £250 from our local tinter. Is that about the same sort of price you were looking at for what you had done? Or?
No, the guys I use seem to be one of the cheapest around. I paid 130 for the rear doors, the tiny windows, and the tailgate, and they charged me 60 for the two front windows.
Fantastic.
So all in all, I spent £190.
Bargain.
We've just had we're getting ours done on Sunday, and it's just the 6 windows, basically the back, the 2 backs, and then the back doors, and that's a quote of 250. So you've got a good bargain there, haven't you? Is it clean?
Yeah. Possibly.
Yeah.
And I did have a couple of issues, and they had to take replace the back film at once because they put it on when it was really cold weather, and the bubbles never went away, and they weren't able to get rid of them, so they took it off and reapplied it, and it was a lot better the second time.
One other question, guys.
Go on.
What about car shades instead of tinting? Could that be an option?
That's what I just was about to say, the same thing, because mine's
definitely.
Like I've said before, it's I've got mine on hire for 4 years, so I didn't want to go to the asking the company if I could have mine blacked out. So I bought some car shades a couple of weeks ago, put them in, £80 I think it was. So that's for the back windows, the small windows, and then the back. And I'm really impressed actually. And the fact you can just clip them out or clip them in whenever you want, it's great for the dog. Lets enough light in, but also keeps enough light out. So it's a good, I wouldn't say halfway house. I think I would get tinted if it was my car. But actually, because it's not, they work really well. I'm really impressed at how made to measure they are. So yeah, I'd definitely look at car shades if anybody's interested. Mark, have you got any tint in your MG5? You tempted?
Yeah. I had the car tinted from the B pillar backwards when it was at the dealer prior to collection, and I went for a really dark tint because I had my ocular lenses replaced about 4 years ago, and as a result of that, I suffer from glare quite easily, and all my other cars, like has been said, they tend to sort of have some kind of protection there. I did with the Audi and I did with Mercedes, so that's why I went for that, and it was relatively cheap, only £250. But since taking delivery of the car, I've decided that the front is just, there's a lot of glass on that MG5, and when it does come to the summer, it's I'm assuming it's going to get quite warm in there. So anything I can do to help with the UV protection and the heat rejection side of it, anything I can do to maximise keeping that cabin temperature cool means that the car doesn't have to work so hard then on the HVAC system, which ultimately means that it's going to give you more range. So I've asked a local company, Global Tint. They came out and they did mine. They came to the house and they'd done the side windows and they put that sun strip on the front windscreen as well. And that was only £130. So it's relatively cheap cost as well for doing something which is going to have quite a bit of impact on your car and the use of your car. And you get one of the things I was concerned at with doing that though was because I read up on the regulations and the requirements for these tinting films. And you see those things about the police pulling you over and stuff. But I just wanted it to all be legal and above board. And Global Tint have given me like a warranty card, which explains what types of films have been used. So if you do get pulled over, you've got something to give the police straight away. So
Fantastic.
but I don't want to do. I don't want to do anything that's going to make the vehicle unsafe.
Mm-hmm.
So on the thread on our forum, I posted some pictures of what it looks from the outside for privacy, which is very good.
Mm-hmm.
And also I've taken some pictures from inside the vehicle that show you that you can still have good visibility and vision from inside the vehicle. You wouldn't think that from looking from the outside of the vehicle. It's quite a contrast. So yeah, feel free to go and take a look.
So you said you went out for very dark. What actually percentage did you go for in the end?
So yeah, I didn't explain that very well. From the B pillar backwards, the regulations, you can basically go blackout. So you can like a limousine. There's no regulations. From the B pillar forwards, so that's your driver's side and your passenger side front. You have to have 70% light transmission through there.
Yeah.
So you were talking about the level of darkness on films. I think the maximum is 30%. But like you said, Mike, natural glass has a certain percentage in it anyway. So that's why when you get your tinter to come and do that, then they need to sort of factor that in when they're applying that film. But yeah, I'm very happy with it.
So you went for the limo look. So
yeah.
So what percentage is that? So what percentage is that off behind the B pillar? So what percentage is that? 100% block or?
No, I think it's 70. I think it's a 70 block. But I was concerned about the because I've put dash cams or front and rear dash cams in, and I was concerned that it would impact on the visibility on the dash cam, but it hasn't. I still see perfectly well out the back. But unlike with the dealer, I didn't have any control over who the dealer came in to do the tinting. So I've got very little information on the tinting that was applied. I haven't got any warranty card or anything. So there are deals to be had. You can go to the tinting people and get them to come and help you. But I felt like I had more control and ownership of that part of the process once I'd taken delivery of the vehicle. So there's pros and cons. If you can afford to wait, with hindsight, I would have probably waited and done a bit of research and got some quotes in from different companies.
I think the good thing about the tint as well is I know the car we had tinted, it just looks better. I think it, as well as the practical side of getting tint in for any passengers or the dog or whatever, I just think it makes the car look better. So I wish I could get mine tinted, but like I say, as I'm not owning it, I thought it's wise not to get it. But I think I must have been royally shafted for the price I paid for the Subaru from the prices that you guys have been charged. So that's really annoying, but there we are. Michael Fisher, have you got your car tinted, the windows? Or
yes, so I got the rears and the boot tinted to 70% through the dealer.
Yeah.
There is one or two bubbles in it, but it's all fine. And I had to pay £15 extra on the car insurance to have the tints put on.
Funny enough, Jeff Cartwright in the chat just says, when tinting your windows, don't forget to notify your insurance. I don't think I did.
Absolutely. So, I have.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Any modification that's not done in the factory has to be reported.
Wow. Okay, thank you for that. And David Stewart's come back with a joke already, Jose's Adventures of Tintin. And so we'll gloss over that one as much as we can. What we're going to work on next. So I think we've done tinting there. I think that's really good. Thanks very much for your help on that. Were there any questions regarding tinting just in the chat? Just quickly checking before we move on.
I didn't see any, but there was one question, but that will fit into the next topic anyway. So,
okay, brilliant. Okay, so the next topic is battery maximum voltage on the ZS EV after the January 21 BMS update. Who wants to go for this one? I haven't had mine done, so I can't comment.
Well,
I've
shall I?
had my
Shall,
car serviced, and yeah, so the maximum voltage once fully charged is being confirmed by Miles down there as 449 or 450 once fully charged.
yeah.
Yep.
Can I add?
Yep.
So I had the Duff BMS, and my car went down to 443. So it wasn't too badly affected. It was only 12 volts off the 455, which the car was originally. And after 7 charges, it's 7 long equalization charges of starting from varying state of health. So, state of charge. One of them was started at 16. Most of them were around the between 80 and 90. I've got it back up to 449.25, and I've got a 20 millivolts spread between them, which is probably, I think, what I understand is to be about right for the battery. So I think pretty much my battery is back to what it should be, and the range is back to normal. So, Miles.
Yeah, pretty much as the other two have said. So the BMS update that's if you had your car prior to October last year, the battery maximum voltage was set to 455 volts. It's now, since October, been changed, so it's 450 volts is the maximum it can possibly be. Basically what they've done is they've stolen 5 volts off the top end and put it on the bottom end, so the battery can discharge slightly more, but it can't charge quite as high. The reason why they might want to do this, MG hasn't given an official reason as to why they've done it, to be fair, but the thinking behind it is there's a couple of benefits to this. One is because the cells aren't so highly charged individually. There's 108 batteries, each one's on about 4.2 volts when fully charged. And then all those multiplied together, you have 450 volts. If those are toward the top end of their operating voltage, it doesn't give you any room for allowing regenerative braking to come in to store into the batteries. It also, so previously you might have seen that on a cold morning or first thing in the morning when you're fully charged, that it says it's not possible to switch into regen mode 3 because the battery's already full and it doesn't have the ability to increase the regen strength. So that's one reason. So dropping the voltage slightly as the maximum means that it's got potentially more headroom to allow a bit more in. Secondly, is it's more likely to extend the life of the battery slightly. So by not stressing the battery by charging them to, it says 100% on the dashboard, but it isn't actually 100% in real life. The battery's got a little bit of top room, top and bottom. And so what we see as 100% was previously 96% charge. Well, now it's 93% charge. Effectively, it's got an extra bit of headroom at the top end, and that means that the battery lasts a bit longer. Lithium-ion batteries prefer not being kept fully charged or fully discharged for long periods of time. I think before they had about a 3% at the top end and 6% at the bottom end as a buffer. And I think they switched that around now so that you've got 3% at the bottom end and 6% at the top end. The reason why that's more useful is because you're more likely to leave your car fully charged on your driveway for a few days without driving it anywhere, but you're unlikely to drive it down to 0 miles and leave it at 0 miles for a prolonged period of time. So it's going to help the battery health in that way. It should potentially help maybe with rapid charging speeds as well. It might be able to, because you're now dropping the battery down a bit lower all the way through the voltage range, it means that potentially it can rapid charge for a little bit longer. The charging curve profile might change so that you can rapid charge at a higher speed for a longer period of time. Which would be welcome.
Definitely.
Overall, it's a positive move, but it's not. If you've not got the Duff BMS, as Mike calls it, then no panic. You'll get the next version when your car's next in for a service. There's no need to bother your dealer about trying to get it added now. They're very likely to want to charge you if you go in demanding the BMS update today. Whereas if you go next service, it'll just get done as part of the service. Another thing to just say actually as well is with regards to all of the sort of stories that have been going on online about, well, I've got this, if there's a new version of BMS, why can't I have it now? Why, if it's going to help the battery last longer, then why shouldn't I get it straight away? Well, quite frankly, the only reason we know about this is because MG happened to put that voltage display on the dashboard. Most of the electric car manufacturers don't show you what the voltage is of the high voltage battery. You don't know. You just see a number of 100% or whatever, and that's it. That's all the information you get. And I know that various of the manufacturers, Nissan, for example, have reconfigured the 30 kilowatt hour battery packs on the Nissan Leaf to adjust the degradation rate that they were seeing on those batteries. So basically, that they didn't degrade as fast, or they didn't appear to degrade as fast. The physical battery wasn't changed. It was just the way that it reported it to the dashboard that was changed. So car manufacturers do these sort of little adjustments all the time. It's nothing to panic about particularly. It's nothing to think is a massive conspiracy. There's no reason to get your pitchforks and go hunting for your dealer to get them to put it onto the car. Much of which we have actually sort of seen online in the last few weeks. I've just had an email today from someone demanding that I call them or email them because their local dealer doesn't know what they're talking about and they want me to talk about the BMS software. They didn't buy the car from us, but because I've done this podcast, they want to interrogate me about it. And really, it's, I'll help out as much as I can, but at the same time, just don't panic quite so much. If I can say to anyone, just on this podcast, we do talk about potential issues with the vehicle, or potential niggles or little things that we've seen, but that's because we're. I mean, I don't know about myself, well, everyone, but most of us here are complete geeks, and we like getting stuck in with this sort of stuff. But for the majority of people who have previously had a car and they've bought the MG ZS or the MG5 to be a car, they won't notice any difference with it whatsoever, and it'll be absolutely fine. And don't panic, and everything's fine. I don't want new owners particularly to sort of think, oh crikey, I've bought something which has loads of issues. You haven't. It's just that we're being a bit more forensic about it than perhaps other people would normally be with normal cars.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of BMS, if anyone's got any issues, if anyone wants to get in contact with me, you can email me at miles.roberts@chorleygroup.co.uk. Anyone from if you want to ask me any questions, feel free to. I am quite busy at the moment. Today I've just been down to I've driven 400 miles today delivering cars, and I'm doing another sort of 500 miles tomorrow. So it might not be an instant reply you get via email, but you will get a reply. So from whatever dealer you bought the car from, if you've got questions, if you want to email me, it's miles.roberts@chorleygroup.co.uk.
It's worth putting it on the forum as well, isn't it? Because the forum is a really good source of information, especially a few weeks ago I didn't even understand what BMS meant. When you were talking about it, it's like, what are they on about?
It was a pop group.
But yeah, but the point being is that there's a lot of information. Even if you ask a simple question on the forum, generally there'll be somebody with knowledge there that will chip in and give you the response you need. You got a good point. Why you're giving out your time in the evening to come on the podcast and that you're being hammered for it doesn't seem fair, does it really? So lay off Miles, everybody.
I have a quick question for Miles.
I don't mind helping, but just send it in an email or something. Just don't. I've had people calling the branches demanding to talk to me. I'm just not there. I'm working from home, or I'm delivering a car down to Essex or whatever. So I'm just not in the office most of the time. So send me an email.
I think it's useful having you on the podcast as well. And I think it's great that you do give your time, because I think in terms of those sorts of questions we get, I think you're the perfect person to answer them. So thank you for doing that, certainly. Although I have now got a question for you regarding the BMS, just regarding my car, selfishly, while you're on.
Yep.
So I don't think mine had the BMS update when I bought it in November, so the previous one, because it doesn't charge when I have my doors unlocked on the 7-watt charger. Should I still just wait until my next my first service, which will be November this year, or should I actually look at trying to get the latest BMS update? Would it affect anything else on my car, or is it fine as it is? I haven't noticed any. Literally, it's fine, because obviously at least it hasn't had the bad BMS.
And I would literally say at this point, I would say if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If you're not having issues with your car, don't bother taking it into the dealer.
Yeah.
Amongst other things, it's just, we are in the middle of a lockdown and it's supposed to be, essential journeys and everything else as well. So it's, I don't think it's worth, booking the time, spending the money potentially that they're going to charge you for a diagnostic fee in the dealership now.
Yeah.
Get it done at service time. If anything changes, the dealership will contact you to bring your car in if it needs it. But at the moment, there's no reason for you to worry about it.
And that was my thought. As you say, it isn't broken, so it doesn't need fixing. So I think I'll just leave it as it is. Are there any? Just checking if there's any questions in the chat regarding.
So Tony asks, is it true that MG is offering a free service for the ones with the buggy BMS updates? That's the mid-October to early December BMSs.
There is a form of compensation in terms of a free service that MG are offering to those people who were badly affected by the BMS updates. There's a specific list of cars which were affected by that, and so the service can only be claimed if your name's on that list, or if your VIN's on that list, shall I say. So MG knows which cars were updated in the affected period. They've sent out all that information to the dealers. The dealers, if they were proactive like us, we've called all of our customers on the list to notify them that there was a recall and we need to come back and get the BMS updated. Hopefully all of the dealers have done the same thing because we all got given the same instructions in the same list. So I would hope that other MG dealers have done the same. Again, if anyone's querying as to whether their car is on the list and they haven't had contact by the dealer, first contact would be to go to your dealer, give them the VIN number and say, can you check if this needs the BMS update? And if they should be able to give you the answer straight away or very soon after. If anyone's not able to get through to their dealer, perhaps their dealer might be closed due to COVID or whatever. Again, if you want to email me your VIN number, I can check on the list my end, but I would advise you to go to your local dealer first.
Brilliant. Thank you for that.
And this is for ZS EV owners only, just to point out, and their MG5 doesn't have any BMS problems. So that's to you, Adam, who's actually getting his new MG5 from you, from Crawley. So,
Crawley.
Yes.
Yes, it's no, the MG5 has got no issues at all. The MG5, I drove an MG5 today down to Cambridgeshire and back in a ZS EV, so it was quite a good back-to-back, because I've been driving the MG5 myself, the company car, for a few months now, and I've not driven a ZS EV for a while, for any distance, and so it was quite good to do a comparison same day. Driving down this morning in the MG5, 186 miles, got there with 7% remaining, so one single charge all the way down. It's great. And then coming back, driving the same manner on the way back in the ZS EV, very similar efficiency. I got about 3.9 miles per kilowatt hour on both cars, and obviously it was warmer today. It was about 10, 11 degrees when I was coming back this afternoon, and it was 144 miles with 10% remaining when I got back. It was when I came up to the first charger today. So both cars performing great, to be fair. No issues with either of them. The ZS EV having the benefit of the MG Pilot, so it did the speed adjusting cruise control, made it a little bit easier on the way back. The MG5 obviously didn't need a charge on the way down, so that was a bonus that way. So both very good cars.
I saw a video on YouTube day before yesterday, I think it was, of a chap who's got an MG EV ZS, and he had to drive from Gloucester to Welwyn Garden City, I think it was. And he did it at 5:30 on the morning when it was -3 degrees. And he went out to his followers on YouTube saying, will I be able to do this journey of 110 miles in this sort of weather? And I think 90% came back saying no way. And he did. I think he managed to get, I think he stretched 118 or 120 miles off the one charge. By, he had the heating on, not full blast, but he had it on enough. He had the seats on, and he managed to get 118, which I think at -3 degrees. And it didn't seem to change from -3 in that sort of like hour and a half, whatever it was. So, he was impressed with that. And I think he surprised his his viewers on YouTube as well. So it sort of fits in, because obviously today you would have had a bit warmer than -3. Hopefully,
it was about 4 degrees when I set off this morning, and I say it got up to sort of 10, 11 on the way back.
Yeah.
So it was a lot better. I didn't need to have the heating on much at all, really. Just for demisting purposes, really.
Yeah.
Heat your seats on the way down. But I mean, the key thing for me, I've done a lot of these long drives, and I always sort of think tortoise and hare, and sort of stick to sort of 60-ish on the motorway, sort of following the sort of the fastest of the wagons is usually my sort of. You find one of these Eastern European truckers that perhaps doesn't have the same speed limit set as all the UK ones, and just let him and just sit in his tailwind all the way, and it gets you really good mileage.
I think it's also good to hear the positives as well, isn't it? Because as you say, it is a forum. We have a podcast where it's a great place for people to pick up on the perceived faults that they mention. But that's what I thought was interesting. I don't know whether you saw it on the forum when I was trying to get my wife to come on, and she won't. She simply won't. But so I said to her, okay, well, as we were walking the dog, tell me the top 5 positives and the top 5 negatives you would say about the car, because she's using it more than me. And I was impressed that the negatives, I would suggest, are minor. Nothing that would stop her buying the car. The positives far outweigh it. And I think it's just because when you ask somebody, or they think, oh, this doesn't quite work how I'd like it to work, or there's a slight delay with the HVAC when I turn it up or down and that sort of thing. But it proved the point that actually, no, she wasn't that bothered about the negatives, because they were few and far between. She struggled to get 5 negatives, actually, which I thought was really good. And I said, as I say, none of them were deal breakers, which I think is always good to remember, because I think when we've gone round the screen before, we've always said, how do you like your car? And I think everybody has said, love it. For the price, for what you get, for the drive and everything else, it's a really, really great car, and it's a great introduction to EVs. So it's I think we keep needing to have to keep pushing that, as opposed to just knocking it. So it's,
I think also on that, I noticed something on the forum this week where, what do you expect for the money as well? These cars are, entry level EVs, and you kind of, as I said before, we got more than we expected with the one that we've got. If you want to spend 10, 15,000 pounds more, you'll get a premium brand that does the same thing with just a few more gadgets and an app.
Absolutely.
It's a car, you point it in the same direction as any other car, it does what it does. So it suits us, doesn't it?
Yeah, I must admit, I'm used to driving Mercedes and BMWs and things, and I haven't noticed any particular difference. I don't feel like I've been hard done by or anything. I don't think I'm having to sit in something that's under par. I feel it's an equivalent. I certainly don't have any issues, So and I'd struggle to find a negative, I have to say. And for me, the biggest positive is I never have to go to a petrol station again, which is fantastic. I hate filling my car up with petrol or whatever I put in it.
And today we had to use the EV to jumpstart somebody's Beamer.
My car.
Yeah, because she hasn't used it for so long.
My battery's gone flat where I've been using this one.
Funny you mentioned
an older model, but
yeah. So
you mentioned about garages. The guy who did that trip, he had to pull in at a garage because he ran out of windscreen wiper fluid. So he was moaning about the price of fluid. I think the price of the windscreen fluid cost the same as what it cost him to drive from Gloucester to Welwyn Garden City, £4.50 or something. So yeah, but I completely agree. And as I say, it was quite cool that, I say, Jules had trouble coming up with 5, and condensation in very cold weather. But I think that's about a combination of, we've got a dog as well, that we take to the beach. So you're going to have that sort of issue, and you have it in a in an iced car, I suppose. Yeah. So no, I agree. I think, and a friend of mine is looking like he could get a deal on a ZS with work, and I wholeheartedly recommended it to him. He said, "What do you think?" I said, "Absolutely, definitely recommend it." So yeah, I think we need to sometimes bring up the positives and the negatives. So yeah.
Oh yeah, I want to change mine to an electric vehicle, my BMW. So, not to a BMW one, but I want to go for a little car, electric. So mine's a soft top, and I want to get rid of it and change it for an electric vehicle myself. I just think they're brilliant.
Yeah.
And the fact that I've never got to go and fill it up is just amazing. It's just best thing ever for me.
Completely agree. Yeah, completely agree.
Yeah,
Have you-
my wife. Well, sorry, I mentioned earlier on we're moving to a little village, and my wife wants a car, so we're going to be looking for a car for her. It'll be a cheap second-hand one, so probably end up being something like a Leaf, because an MG is just out of her price range. But it's 2 EVs, so we've got all the challenge of charging 2 EVs. another episode.
I said I would never go back now. When the guy asked me if I would recommend as the EV, I said I'd never go back to a nice vehicle now. Once you've had one, you don't see. And as you say, Mark, the money is ridiculous that you're saving on it. You know,
I just want to let everyone know that when I got my charger set up at home, I did the first charge on it. I did a top up charge, and it cost me £1.26. And I was absolutely. I just couldn't believe what I was seeing, but I beat that. The other night it was only 60p.
ridiculous.
So it's definitely the way ahead. And like you said, I wouldn't go back. I'm definitely I can't. I'm not going back to the forecourt and filling up. I do like pulling into the forecourt. It's just smugness. So and the looks that you get from the guy that's behind the till, because obviously he sees your number plate, and why are you pulling up here?
What you should do is park by the fuel pump, like ice vehicles park in the electric car.
Do your shopping.
Yeah, just sit there. See if they
get my coffee and leave.
Yeah. But,
what I don't miss is the diesel fingers as well. Diesel.
Oh yes.
Yeah, one time I drove into the garage and people just looking at me like, why is he driving? And I just drove past them all and straight into the car washing bay, and was then just washing the car, and they're like, oh, that's why he's in the petrol station. He still has to wash the car.
Jules was going to take my car to a garage just for the fun of it, and just claim like, oh, I borrowed my husband's car, but I can't find the petrol thing. Where do I actually put it? Just to see what would happen. But we haven't got around to doing it. But no, I think that's a really good thing. What are we saying on the chat? Let's have a look.
Both McDon and Adam. No, not Adam. There's a couple of Alan asks, do you get AA cover with the car, and also with servicing the car with MG dealers?
Yeah, you do. Yeah, so you get a year's AA breakdown cover with when you first buy the car, and then every year that you get it serviced afterwards, you get a further year top up. So in theory, as long as you keep it serviced with MG, you'll continue to keep your AA cover.
And if they don't supply the card, then tell the dealer to give you the card.
It's all Google apps and things nowadays, isn't it? You don't need a card for anything. But yeah, no, you can get a card from the dealer.
Okay, cool.
Someone's asked a question. John Griffith has asked if we can ask you, Mars, if MG UK is taking notice of this forum and others when it comes to fixing stuff faster than perhaps would have been the case without owners' feedback.
MG are taking notice of this podcast particularly, and I've already had my hand slapped several times for saying stuff that I shouldn't have done. So yes, MG are very much watching this, and hello to all of the management at MG. I hope I'm not wrong today.
Any news on eMotion?
Still no. Last time I spoke to someone about it, it was slated for 2022. We'll see if it still happens next year. I don't know, but it is part of the plans. But I believe that they want to get the volume in the UK increased before they come with a fairly specific, 2+2 EV sports car. Lovely though it is, it's probably not going to be a volume thing. I'd imagine it'd probably sell similar to, I don't know, maybe a Mazda MX-5 eventually. But at the moment, they need a volume item. So there's some other cars that are likely to come before that, such as an electric MG3, which would suit Sarah very well as a small electric car.
I'd rather have a two-seater sports.
Well, I'm sure you would. Yeah. Or potentially, another SUV, a larger SUV with a bigger battery and 4-wheel drive. So I expect to hear those announced probably before the e-motion.
Cool.
Oh, for the AA cover, does it include pre-reg vehicles as well?
Yes.
Okay, brilliant.
Okay,
Cool. I think that's the questions. Yeah, up there. So, is there anything else on the BMS update that we've missed? I think we've pretty much covered it as far as I can.
The only thing that's on the forum is the red warning that appears on the dash, which says "Please slow charge the vehicle," and that's really a side effect of where the battery isn't balancing. Is that correct, Miles?
Yeah. So with the October, November, December BMS update, what happens with the cause was that it wasn't balancing properly. The symptoms you get is that the voltage drops from the maximum. So rather than seeing 455 or 450, you were seeing 435. Really bad one, perhaps about 427. I think it was the worst I heard. Which means that the effective usable capacity of the battery is vastly reduced. As the battery gets further and further out of balance, when the imbalance gets quite large, Mike, you said that your imbalance now is currently 20 millivolts. Yeah. What was the worst yours got to? It wasn't that bad, was it?
No, the worst recorded was about 130, but I didn't actually record it just prior to the update. So there was about 2 weeks between my last recording of the imbalance of the 130 to actually having the update done. So it was probably worse than that.
Yeah. Okay. So generally, if the battery imbalance became much over 100 millivolts, that's considered quite a big imbalance. And so if it gets, and so the car knows that if it sees a big imbalance, then it needs a balancing charge. The fault is that the balancing charge never worked. So you'd plug the car in, you'd leave it for 12, 15 hours, whatever, and the car would spend loads and loads of time not doing anything useful. The battery would get more and more imbalanced rather than balanced. And so
making it worse.
Yeah, so effectively every time you charge the car, the battery got worse affected. So
so a note to people who've still got the Duff BMS then is don't equalize the battery until you get the updated
there's
BMS.
No point equalizing the battery because it's not equalizing. Yeah,
exactly.
So, and the key thing is if you haven't got the BMS, the big problem we've got is that those who are worse affected are the ones who've done the most mileage and therefore have charged the most times. If they've been in a position where under lockdown they've not been driving the car very much, they've not charged it probably more than once or twice, they've probably hardly noticed any difference at all on the voltages. If they've done quite a few long journeys, and particularly if they've done rapid charges as well, that'll throw it further and further out. And so I spoke to an Uber driver who obviously by nature of his work was doing sort of 2 or 3 rapid charges a day. And he found that his battery got to the stage where it was only doing about 50 miles useful range on a charge. And so as a function of that, he was then having to do a rapid charge 2 to 3, 4 times a day to do the same mileage, which was making the battery then worse. So the next day he'd only do 45 miles on a charge. Now, when he has the battery new version of the update done, that's great, but he's still because he's got such a restricted range in his battery, he's still going to do loads of rapid charges and probably not so many balancing charges. So his battery's going to take longer to recover as a result of that, compared to Mike's, who, let's say, 7 charges into his back. Whereas this guy who's got the Uber car is probably going to, it could take him a month of charging to get it somewhere near, which is, it's unfortunate. It's the way that the car battery works, it's the only way to fix it is to do these long balancing charges with the correct BMS. There's not like a shortcut.
Unless it finished doing the equalization charge, if possible, which is what some of these users who are doing a lot of mileage can't do because they've used 70, 80, 90% of the battery. They then need to leave it, so that will take 5 or 6 hours on a 7 kilowatt charger to charge the battery up, and then they need a further 12 plus hours.
Exactly.
So they need
and when they're using the car regularly, it's just not possible. So
exactly,
it's a real issue. It is a real issue
Yeah.
for these customers that, you know, that if they've got what you ideally need to do is sort of take a week off work almost to just balance your battery and get it back to right, or see if you can speak to your dealership and see if they can perhaps, I don't know, offer to swap a car for a week so that they can do the balancing for you and you can, you know, continue with your work. It's not a good situation but you also have to appreciate for us dealers as well, you know, it's not anything that we had any insight about either, and it's obviously with the current COVID restrictions, it's often limiting as to what we're able to do as well, in terms of, you know, some insurance companies aren't covering dealerships for loaning cars out because it's one of the things that's not allowed under COVID regulations. For example, you're not allowed to do test drives, so you know, if they're using test drive insurance, it might be they can't give you a loan car if it's on the same insurance policy. So it's difficult for us as well. Ideally, yeah, if you're using it particularly if you're using it for like an Uber, that sort of thing, try and get the battery update done as soon as possible, and try and do as many long charges as possible. And it will come good again, as you know, it will eventually pull itself back. It's going to take a lot of charges.
Yeah, quick one from chat. David Wren asks, is a partial balance better than none? Or
yeah, if you want to, basically the battery balancing is able to move around 1 millivolt per cell per hour. So 108 cells, so you can do 108 times 1 millivolt per hour. So it's beneficial to do, you know, if you can only do a 2-hour balance, it's still better than doing none. And it's certainly better than stopping at 80% and not doing a balance at all. But yeah, if you've got any spare time, you know, if you're not working the weekend and you can put it on charge a couple of times over the weekend, one thing we suggested was that you could, because the battery it'll do a downwards balance from 100 down to about 93%. So once if the car's on, and like say for example, just got the heater on, so if you sat in the car for an hour on your driveway and I don't know, play Candy Crush or, you know, do some emails, whatever, and with the heater on, run the battery down to about 90% and then stick it back on charge, it'll have balanced for that hour whilst it was depleting the battery, and then it'll balance again once you plug it back in again. So that'll help cycle the battery a bit quicker and get it. You don't have to run it all the way down to 0 before you put it on charge. You can just drop it down a little bit and then put it back on charge, and it'll do another balance again. So
there is some evidence that running it down to 0 does get, and then doing a long equalization charge does actually get the battery to go back quicker. It's sort of evidence from people who've got OVMS boxes, but not many people have done that. So it's sort of fairly new knowledge at the moment. So it's being investigated.
Yeah, I'd say that, you know, obviously under the lockdown situation where people perhaps aren't doing many miles at the moment.
Exactly.
But yeah, it might be a best option if you just sort of sit in the car for an hour and then. But yeah, if as a part of your job you are out and about using your car, great, stick it on charge. It may balance slightly faster, but if not, just try and stick it on charge every day. Even if you're not using the car in between, just go out, run the battery down a little bit, and then put it back on charge.
Funny enough, I was sat in the car the other day waiting outside a shop, and I wanted to see what would happen if I turned the heater off with the engine on, with the ready light on, and it gave me 10 miles just by turning it off and turning it on again, which I thought was quite interesting. So if you are desperate for miles at one point, just turn that off at the main switch, and it literally just went up by 10 miles in terms of range. So, which I'd never tried before, so that was interesting. Okay, let's quickly cover the last point if we can. I've seen this on the forum about the wiper blades, replacement wiper blades. I think did I read that they answered it by saying they just looked for a ICE version of the ZS in terms of replacement wiper blades, and it was the same measurements, the same sizes. Is that right, Miles? Because they were having trouble when they were like looking for the actual electric version in Halfords or whatever, and they couldn't really find the right wiper blades. Are you aware of that? I'm
not aware, no. In terms of replacement wiper blades, I will toe the party line here and say that your local MG dealer will be able to offer a part which fits perfectly, and will have no issues with fitment and won't clatter and everything. I used to work, one of my jobs years ago when I was young, I worked at Halfords, and there's a definite knack to replacing wiper blades. Once you've been shown it, you can replace a wiper blade in about 3 seconds. But the number of times we used to have people say wiper blades and said, "Do you want fitting?" It was like $1.99 for a wiper blade at Halfords. "Do you want fitting?" No, it's fine. I'll fit it myself. And then we just sit and watch them, and just watch them out the window as they go out to the car park. And it's usually when it's chucking it down with rain and all the rest of it as well. And you think you don't really want to do that job yourself, but you watch them, and after about 20 minutes, half an hour of them trying to work out how on earth it's possibly going to come off, then there's storm back inside and say, "Fine, we'll pay for fitting." £2, please. Walk outside, lift up the arms, turn it over so it's facing you. Click, click, off. Click, click, back on. Done. Yeah. And it's like, well, that was, why did you charge £2 for that? Because we knew how to do it. You know, you were there
the knowledge.
5 minutes getting soggy, not knowing how to do it. Yeah. It's the old Picasso handkerchief job, isn't it? You know.
Yeah, and another plus for MG parts. I was talking to somebody on Facebook yesterday. As you know, I fitted winter wheels to the car. You can barely see them on there, but I had TPMS sensors fitted, and I decided to go for the MG OEM ones. They were only £33 each, I think. I then paid somebody to fit them. And I'll say this guy on Facebook, he bought an Autel unit or Autel or something.
Autel, yeah.
Yeah, and it's supposed to clone, and so you buy their sensors, and you just clone it off the MG. It didn't work with the MG, so he's had to go and buy some genuine OEM ones. Yeah, so another plug for MG. Exactly.
Okay, any more questions in the chat? Let's have a quick look.
Regarding the bodywork guarantee, is that the vehicle checked and kept on the service record? That's from Tony.
Say that again, sorry, Mike.
Regarding the bodywork guarantee, is that when the car's being serviced and it's recorded and checked at every service?
Yeah, so we do when our techs do an inspection of the vehicle, they walk around underneath it, etc. They'll do a tick box exercise, which is then fed back onto the system. They complete it with MG when they're updating the electronic service record.
Because there's no service record kept in the car anymore.
No, it's all online. It's all in the cloud.
Yeah, annoyingly, I've had my car since November, and someone's already opened their door into my left-hand passenger side in a supermarket car park somewhere, and we only noticed it day before yesterday when Jules just said, "What's that there?" So I now have to see if, because it's a hire car, I've obviously got to get it sorted. But now I'm thinking, do I leave it till the last 4th year, or do I get it done now? But because it's new, I don't want it to be, you know.
It depends how bad it is.
I'm hoping it will.
My experience with this, if the paint's not broken, so it's not going to get any rusting or anything like that, just leave it until, because you know what will happen is you'll fix it, and then somebody will do the same thing the next week, and you'll end up painting the same bit 16 times rather than just doing it all done at once at the end.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just, if it's not broken the paint, if there's not any risk of any rust or anything like that coming through, then I'd leave it till the bitter end.
Yeah, that's what I was tempted to do. You can't see any rust, so you can't see that the paint's broken. So it's just really annoying. You know, we try and now park away from people, and someone still drives by you and just. But there we are.
Parks next to you, opens the door.
Yeah, and last time it was a black, same MG, but the ice version, which Julie tried getting in, which is quite interesting. What else have we got? So Alan's asked, Alan Bowling, how can the customer see the service record? Are we able to see it?
There's probably some sort of freedom of information thing you can do, but it's not easily accessible. You know, there's not like a link I can send you or anything like that. You'd have to inquire with your dealer and ask them to print off the service record.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Matt Don has said he feels your pain with bodywork damage. Someone did a hit and run on me on the weekend, which is Very annoying.
Yeah. As I say, I think I can leave it. I might just get it done just because the car is only 3 or 4 months old, and it'd be nice to have it for the next 4 years, looking nice. So I think, if I'm right, that's it for the chat in terms of any other questions. So thanks everybody for asking those questions and posing them, and hopefully we've answered as much as we can. I think we've covered the subject matter that we had in the agenda. It's now 8:30, so that's it for the MG EV podcast this week. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, and if you'd like to comment on what you've heard today, please reply in the discussion thread linked in the video description. My thanks to those of you who have turned up and put your faces on this screen. It's quite a daunting thing to do, so thank you very much for that. So if I can go around my screen, if I can thank Mike Proctor from Croydon.
Okay.
If I can thank, I was going to thank myself, Stuart and Sarah Whitman from Southampton.
See you later.
Bye.
Thank you, Mark Calvert, for your first time. Hopefully you'll be back from Suffolk.
Well, Mark.
Thank you, Michael Fisher, for filling in for Mr. Stewart, who had technical difficulties, I think, and also thanks for running the podcast.
No problem, and make sure you hit the subscribe button, because I want to try and beat Tesla Owners UK club tonight. So come on, hit the subscribe if you haven't. Let's beat them.
I'll log on with 3 different accounts. And thank you very much, Miles, for coming on. And if you are getting any knocking from MG, they hopefully can see the customer service you're providing. So hopefully this is a good advert for you and for Chorley Group as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
We'll be back next Monday, the 22nd of February at the usual time of 7:30. So we look forward to seeing you again then. Meantime, thanks very much for joining us.
Bye all.